wanna talk? So let's talk. Yeah. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Good evening and welcome. It's Talk to Solomon. Thanks so much for so many of you watching our work. We appreciate it very much. My name is Stan Solomon. I'm the host, the co-host.
Chief Steve.
Former Police Chief Steve Davis, lawman extraordinaire, and from a long distance away, my friend Brent Johnson, freedomradio.us. Brent.
Hi there.
Our guest
Hello.
is the most probably impactful lady perhaps in American history. Her name is Phyllis Schlafly. I remember when the Equal Rights Amendment came up, Phyllis, who was a young woman at the time, rose up and stood strong and was very compelling, and is probably the most significant person in that successful fight to defeat the Equal Rights Amendment. Phyllis, how are you?
Hello, Stan. Good to join you.
It's always a pleasure to have you. Phyllis, I have 1,000 questions for you, but let me start by asking you what is most important in your mind of what's happening right now.
Well, what's most important is defeating Barack Obama on November the 6th, because I think the majority of the American people realize that we are going in the wrong direction, and we can't let him go any farther. He's done so many illegal things, and we want to have a change of administration.
Well, as Brent often says, we need to change this regime because it is not in the American tradition by any stretch of the imagination. No enemy outside of America could have possibly done as much harm as this man has done. He's reduced the net worth of the American family by 40%. He has broken the back of the minority populations in this country economically. He has caused America to turn about and not march backwards, but to get into a dead run going in the wrong direction. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Yes, and we have this great opportunity. I think it may be the most important election of our times, and I urge everybody to plan to get out and vote on November the 6th. That's the date when we must make a change.
Well, we now have to get out and vote. We have to make sure that everyone we know that we can possibly get, tow, cajole, bribe, and get to the voting booth, get there, because you know the left will vote for people who are dead. They will vote for people who never existed. They will vote multiple times for the same people. And finally, we have some people talking about it. I'm just excited that we're finally getting Republicans to develop a little backbone and talk about the incredible cheating done by the Democrats.
Well, yes, and of course they've been denying that there's any cheating, and we know there has been cheating. And the Al Franken race, which was contested and recounted and so forth, and after they finally seated him in the Senate, they've now found hundreds of votes that were illegally cast, some by felons, some by people who really didn't vote for him, and but they're more than would have made the difference. And then there are just all kinds of vote frauds, and the Democrats don't believe it, try to deny it, and won't prosecute it.
Well, now, do they believe it? They want it. They're fighting a photo ID.
That's why they think they can win any close election. And it may be a close election coming up. And, yes, and so we have to, the name of the game is to get our vote out in as big numbers as we possibly can.
All right, I want to ask you about Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, who has been treated poorly by this president, was just told to basically drop dead, go to hell. Obama's too busy to meet with him at a time when literally the ignition of a worldwide war could be at hand. Your thoughts?
Well, certainly Obama is an enemy of Israel. He's certainly no friend of Israel. The Americans have been a great friend of Israel, and we don't like the way Obama's treating him. And so I think Israel certainly has every right to defend itself, and we want to make sure it is maintained as a free country. and that's just one of his foreign policy problems. The way that he's giving up our anti-missile defense, and you know what he told to the Russian president. Well, give me a little time. After I'm reelected, I'll be able to have more room to accommodate you.
Just amazing. If that had happened to the other side, we never would have heard the end of it until there'd been an impeachment or a resignation. Now,
and then listen, Stan, I want to ask you if you saw that vote on God at the Democratic convention. I think that's one of the most outrageous, even the funniest things I ever saw.
Well,
I hope everybody saw it.
Phyllis, asking me to watch the Democrats, two or more Democrats in one place, is enough to cause me to have severe indigestion.
Yeah, but that was worth any comedy show.
Yeah,
he took the vote 3 times. He was completely befuddled, didn't know what to do. That's the chairman. And finally, he read his instructions off the teleprompter and said the motion had passed by a 2/3 majority, and everybody could clearly hear that is not true.
All right, let me take a breath here, Steve.
First of all, Phyllis, I want to thank you and commend you for your actions and your vocalness on these issues, because it's very significant. And also, again, you've proven to me that right now in this time in history, the conservative women have more guts than the conservative men. I would like to spend one comment about the GOP in that the voter ID issue. Stan said he thinks he's got some guts. I think they're just afraid, because the one thing the GOP cannot stand is to lose elections. I'm not so sure they're concerned about the issue so much, but if it's going to be an election-losing issue, they're going to be on board with it to fight it.
Well, you're right, and the feminists completely control the Obama administration, and the men are kind of afraid to fight the feminists. It isn't natural for men to fight women, and but nevertheless, we hope they'll stand up and protect America.
By the way, did you see Sandra Fluke? I have to be careful how I pronounce her name. I want to call her Sandra Slut. But did you see where she was sporting a button, which many others copied, that said, and I quote, "Sluts vote"? You know, you couldn't make things up that are as ignorant as what the Democrats promote.
Yeah, that's right. You couldn't.
All right, Brent, your question for Phyllis Schlafly.
Hi, Phyllis. It's real good to have you on the show again. And you've been on my show as well. I've known your work for many years. You're very much conservative. Everything you're saying about Obama, I completely agree with. However, okay, when I hear you and when I hear Stan talking about the cheating of the Democrats, and boy, do they cheat. You'll get no argument from me. I would like to hear your honest, well thought out perspective on the recent cheating of the Republicans, in which they not only did the same thing, they had the Republican chairman reading off a teleprompter while there were objections to the change of rules, saying there were no objections to exclude Ron Paul's participation in the National Convention. I'd like your perspective on that, because I don't think that the Democrats are the only ones in this election who have engaged in cheating.
Well, I agree with you about the way they treated the Ron Paul delegates. I believe that I was not for Ron Paul. I'm not a Ron Paul fan. I voted for Romney, and it was clear that Romney had the majority of votes. But I do think the delegates who were elected for Ron Paul were entitled to cast their votes and have that vote recorded. And I thought they were, you know, what they did was not only wrong, I think it was stupid, because the point is you ought to be reaching out to get people to vote for Mitt Romney, and instead they insulted him. I don't understand it. It just isn't smart politics.
I agree with you totally, and I agree with Brent.
I appreciate that. I agree with you. Yeah.
Do you have another comment?
I believe in beating the Ron Paul people legally, and honestly.
And they did.
In some sneaky way.
Exactly.
They did get more votes, but the fact is Ron Paul has not hundreds, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions of people who believe in what he stands for, I being one of them, although I didn't vote for him either. But I know Rand Paul. Rand Paul has done some wonderful things. And I had this discussion with some people I know in the Republican Party. It's like, what are you, stupid? Do you want a third party? Do you want these people to stay home? Don't we need every single vote?
Well, politics, when you get the nomination, you should then reach out to your opponents to try to get them in the same party to vote for you too. And there was no reaching out to the Ron Paul people. They were just insulting them. So I don't understand it.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
it kind of reminds me. You're not
neither
old enough
do
to
I.
remember,
But
I can
so
remember the
you say it.
I can remember the 1952 campaign when the establishment wanted Dwight Eisenhower and we Middle Western grassrooters wanted Bob Taft. But anyway, Eisenhower was nominated, and then he thought he could coast on in on his military record. And the New York Herald Tribune ran a big story that said, Ike's campaign is running like a dry creek. And Ike got the message, and he called up Bob Taft and met with him. Are you there?
Yes, go ahead.
And met with him, and then he invited the conservatives and the grassrooters to come aboard, and he ended up winning. And that's the way you do with the people you've beaten in the primary.
Well, again, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, Brent, did you have another question?
No, I just wanted to acknowledge you, Phyllis, for that, because yeah, I think it's important to recognize that when Republicans do something wrong, they should be called on the carpet for it as well. And I agree with you. It makes no sense at all. They had, like Stan said, millions of people. They could have encouraged those people to come on board. Instead, a lot of those people are not going to vote or will vote third party.
Well, hopefully they won't do that because we don't want Obama. But the fact is, Romney does not walk on water. He wasn't my choice during the campaign. I am enough of a pragmatist to say if I have to choose between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney, I choose Mitt Romney. Once we get Mitt Romney, and I think we will, then Mitt Romney had better do the things he said he was going to do, audit the Fed, bring us back to the gold standard, eliminate Obamacare, and because if he thinks that he can get in and ignore those things, he's wrong. He is wrong, and that is our job. Would you agree, Phyllis?
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right.
I agree.
Let me ask you about Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, who I, with great love, call, the Iranian anus. At any rate, he has now made the statement that he has missiles capable of hitting every city in Israel. He has said on numerous occasions it is his intent to eliminate Israel and all its people from the face of the earth. Whether or not he can do all these things, whether or not he's being braggadocious or is psychotic, I don't really know. But from your experience, with the positions this man as the president of that country has taken and the statements he has made, do you believe that America and or Israel and or Britain and or the UN and or anyone else is within their rights and responsibilities to respond, or do they have to wait until he proactively launches a missile?
Well, if you've watched some of those old westerns that were such popular movies, you know when the bad guy reaches for his gun, you're entitled to get your gun out and shoot him first.
So you think that we could? That's an interesting simile, Chief Steve. You're the
well.
guy.
You have the right of self-defense, and I think Israel has the right of self-defense. I think everybody does.
Chief?
Well, I think the question on the table is, does Israel have to wait till they're attacked to respond back? And I would say no. There's things we don't know about. There's intelligence gathering. There's physical buildings. There's other things taking place. And then I say when you look at all that, I would say that no one, including especially Israel, would have to wait until they're attacked to defend themselves. If they believe attack is imminent, they can take proactive measures to stop that.
Now,
well, I don't pretend to be any expert on the Middle East. I'm an expert on the feminists and a lot of other subjects, but if it'd be on the front page if I could solve the problems of the Middle East.
Well, it's just like a bully at school. You have to wait till the bully knocks you down before you protect yourself. I would say not. If he makes a threat and he comes your way, that's enough.
All right. Let me ask about.
and allow me, because
Oh, yes, please.
it's not fair to leave that unresponded to. I tend to disagree. I think when a bully makes a threat, it's just a threat. When a bully beats you up, then you can retaliate. The entire American system is based on the principle of self-defense. That means that you don't preemptively attack someone because you think they're going to hurt you. That's how cops are murdering innocent people. It's saying, well, I feared for my safety. I thought that the guy might hurt me. So that justified killing him. And I don't think there's anything special about Israel, that Israel should be considered different than any other country on the face of the earth. That Israel does not get the special privilege of being able to attack just because it's surrounded by hostile territory. I do not believe that that is a principled position, and I do not believe that it is a constitutional or a lawful position or a moral position.
Well, you and I disagree on everything you just said, but I respect you, as you know, so we're going to go on. I'd like to talk, since we're talking about feminists, we have seen in the Democrat platform a complete assault on everything that is traditionally accepted in this country. Homosexual marriage and homosexuality, abortion on demand for 9 months, paid for by the government, the right to be or participate in or have pornography. They want the age of consent dropped, some of them to age 8, the more moderate ones to age 12. Am I going off the reservation here, or is what I'm saying true, Phyllis?
Well, I think a lot of that is due to the courts, and I would urge your listeners to get my book called The Supremacists and see how the pornography situation in this country really was created by Supreme Court decisions. The book is pretty much out of print now, but I put it on my website. It's called The Supremacists, and you can download it by separate chapters and have a study group about it. And I think we have to realize that one of the most important powers of the president we elect is to name new Supreme Court justices. So that's another reason to make sure we defeat Barack Obama. We can't afford to have more of his kind of people on the court, and I would urge people to remember that when they go to vote.
Let me ask you specifically, you bring up a point, I usually don't talk about this. I believe that Kagan and Sotomayor are, how do I say this without being insulting? I believe that they are dramatically less intellectually gifted. That's a word, good. Isn't that good? I get a prize for that.
You're the man.
Dramatically less intellectually gifted. In other words, they're dunces. And that the fact they're on the Supreme Court is an embarrassment. And of course, now that John Roberts has shown that he is a moron, we literally have a 5-4 majority of idiots on the Supreme Court.
Well, I don't know if they're idiots. I wouldn't say that, but they certainly are thinking that they can interpret the Constitution in their own way, and they're not the kind of people we expected. And so I think I just think we have to pick a president when we who's going to appoint the kind of judges we believe should be on the Supreme Court, because we're very disappointed with a lot of the ones we have.
And every other court to which there are federal
and every other court.
Right.
You know, one of the first judicial appointment Obama made was this David Hamilton, who was a district court judge, and he ruled that the Indiana state legislature could not give an invocation that mentioned the name of Jesus Christ, but it would be okay to mention Allah.
Right, and I know David, and he is an idiot. I don't think anyone could be a liberal and have an I and a Q. I think you have to, expect one or the other, mostly I's. But I know.
While we're talking, I urge you to recommend my book, No Higher Power: Obama's War on Religious Liberty. It's emerging as a very important issue in this campaign, and apparently Obama really wants to turn us into a completely secular nation in which you're not permitted to mention God in any public place. Now, that's not what religious liberty means and has meant under the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment for a couple of centuries. And my book is a good summary setting forth the actions and words of Obama, like when he quotes the Declaration of Independence, he just omits the word creator. And when he gave his Thanksgiving address, he thanked a lot of people, but God didn't make the cut. And, you know, there's just too many examples of what he's done. And we like these crosses that stand on hills to honor our veterans that they have in California that have been in litigation for years, and then depictions and monuments of the Ten Commandments. And Obama's idea is freedom of worship means you can go inside a church and shut the door, and then you can say a prayer. He won't bother you. But as far as saying it in public, he doesn't want you to be able to do it. And that's really what was at issue in the Democrats' three-time vote at their convention last week.
It's amazing.
So my book,
collection.
No Higher Power, sets it all out.
No Higher Power.
You can get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or eagleforum.org.
That's your website, eagleforum.org, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. Did you have another question, Steve?
No, I just want to make an observation. It seems to me that oftentimes conservatives, they say that the other side, the liberals, are, you said the word dunces or they're idiots. I don't think it matters if they're dunces or not. They have an agenda that they're going to fulfill, whether they're geniuses or dunces. And part of that agenda is to eliminate God, and they want to destroy America. And so oftentimes I hear our side say they don't get it. Well, I think they do get it, but they just have a totally different agenda that they're going to accomplish. And so while we look at the issues at hand, freedom for one, they don't want us to have freedom. They want us to be in a socialized country. And so we're thinking about them oftentimes as two people with different routes to the same agenda or the same end. That's not true. The liberals have a totally different agenda. It's going to eliminate God, eliminate the value of life.
They have a big agenda, and it's not in line with the Founding Fathers by any means.
In fact, there was an interesting observation of Obama's speech where he sees not equal opportunity, but equal outcomes. He wants everyone, in essence, to become middle class. Nothing more, nothing less. Everyone should be a 9-to-5er, work until they're worn out, and then be cut off of medical care because we're out of money. That's his agenda. Although the elitists, the political class, they get to party, party, party.
Well, his job czar is trying to create jobs in China.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Brent, another question for Phyllis.
Yeah,
well,
no help at all.
You're talking about the Supreme Court and the lower courts and the kind of rulings that come out. The real problem with the courts is that since the 1930s, they've engaged in something called case law, which is the antithesis of constitutional construction. Law is supposed to be based on the Constitution. Okay, that's it. Every single time you rule on something, it should be compared to what the Constitution says. But what they do is they compare their rulings, they compare their cases to what somebody else in some other court ruled on a similar matter. So assuming a court back in the 1930s or 40s, let's say a court erred, they made a mistake, they ruled incorrectly. Doesn't matter, that's the ruling now, forever and ever, that's the ruling to which they will refer when a similar case comes up, and ad infinitum. And so what happens is you get away from the constitutional construction that should be going on in the courts, and you end up with this case law scenario that allows for so much absurdity. And just to give you an example, Judge Napolitano's favorite example comes from a 1960s case, I think it is, in New York City, in which they ruled that because people who were on a construction site on a skyscraper 40 stories above the street could see New Jersey, therefore they had an effect under the Commerce Clause on New Jersey, and there was an appropriate ruling an inappropriate ruling that came as a result. Case law is the reason you have these idiots on the courts, or people acting like idiots on the courts. They've gotten away from constitutional construction. Well,
all right, let me ask Phyllis to comment on that. Phyllis?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there are all kinds of problems, and the country's going in the wrong direction, and they have this terrible debt that'll hang over our children and grandchildren, and I just urge everybody to get ready for the November election.
Phyllis, again, your website?
EagleForum.org.
And the 2 books you just mentioned?
Well, The Supremacist, you can get it off of my website, EagleForum.org. But the new one is No Higher Power, Barack Obama's War on Religious Freedom. And that's a big issue right now, based on what the Democratic National Convention did and all of Obama's actions. And I urge you to inform yourself and get the book and then give it to your pastor and tell him to advise his flock about the danger to our religious liberty.
Thank you so much, Phyllis, for taking time out of your busy schedule. God bless you.
All right. You have
God
a
bless
good
you,
evening.
Phyllis.
We look forward to having Phyllis back. Thanks for being with us, folks. We have another interesting guest, Gary Creep from the United States Justice Foundation, coming up in just a moment. Do you have a cell phone? I do. In fact, everyone I know does. There's only one problem with cell phones. They're too damn high. You remember that guy. With me is Ted Williams, one of America's experts on cell phones, and a guy who's been responsible, along with his company, for hundreds of thousands of people saving money on cell phones. Ted, thank you for joining us. Talk to us.
Well, I tell you, Stan, right now, every dollar a person can save is a dollar earned. I'm telling you, in this economy, the price of gas and the unsure situation with employment, our business is tailor-made, and our cell phone packages are tailor-made to help everyone out.
All right, let's state a few facts. Unlimited service isn't unlimited service anymore. Right or wrong?
It's right for a lot of the big carriers that you're familiar with, but our company has got truly unlimited talk, text, and web. We don't slow speeds down. We don't charge you after 1 or 2 gigabytes. It's truly unlimited, running on a nationwide network with roaming options if people want it.
And to get unlimited service, which many people use today in their business, you're going to spend $120, $130, $140. How do you compare?
We've got plans that start at $20 with rollover minutes, and our truly unlimited talk, text, and web plan is $59 a month. Again, no limits on the data, and the exciting thing is you can earn, as a customer, you can earn free service by simply referring a few customers to us. That earns you free service potentially for the rest of your life.
Now, let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. Without paying money, without being in the business, simply if you're a customer, at whatever the customer costs are, and I assume there are no deposits or that type of thing, that if you refer a few friends and they get service, you can earn free service for yourself?
Absolutely. It's, as you said, no contract, no deposit, no credit check. And we have many payment options. They can be auto-billed, auto-debited, phone in and make your payment over the phone, or, you know, a lot of options on how to pay the bill. But truly unlimited talk, text, and web available to you for $59 a month, and if you refer a few friends, totally free.
Now, 2 other questions. You said roaming is an option. How much does it cost?
If you have unlimited nationwide roaming, it would be an additional $20 if you
So
if
you're,
you need
you're
it.
still
But-
only $79.
Correct. But you may not need it because we are on the nationwide network.
Okay. And the second thing is, do you only have dial-up phones that you have to carry in a suitcase, or do you actually have the latest and greatest Droid phones?
We have Android phones are the hottest selling items right now on our site, but we also cater to those people that all they have a need for is a simple flip phone. So you can go from, you know, from the top of the line phone to a free phone.
And are you competitive on those prices?
Absolutely. The phones, most people don't realize this, but the phone prices you hear on television are tied into contracts. We don't have a contract. So our phone, you buy it, you own it, and you pay the real price. The way you can find out how competitive it is simply ask any of those big 3 or 4 companies, what is the price of the phone if I don't have to sign a contract? And they'll tell you many of those Android phones are $400.
There you go. All right, folks, you can get more information by dialing 1-800-299-8362, or just go to cpnlive.com and click on the icon that says Get Free Phone Service. Free. Free. I can afford free. Can you?
Free is good.
Thanks.